Hamilton, an American musical, is, an American musical by Lin-Manuel Miranda that chronicles the life of the founding father found on the $10 bill, Alexander Hamilton. Obviously, there's a focus on his personal life and relationships, and oh, what a personal life it was. But the political goings-on in the late 18th and early 19th centuries in America are also super important to the musical's narrative, especially in the second act. Hamilton is a pretty wordy show, to put it lightly, so it's understandable that the specifics of who's fighting with who or who belongs to which party might get lost when you're focusing on Hamilton cheating on his wife, you know? So, no fear, as someone with a degree in Hamiltonology, i.e. I have been listening to this show for like 7 years, I've been in the trenches, save me, I'm here to explain what's going on. This is a breakdown of the politics in the musical Hamilton. Some disclaimers, even though maybe 2 or 3 people are going to see this video, I don't know. 1. This video will primarily focus on Act 2, since that's where the more intricate political goings-on are going on. But I will do a brief overview of Act 1 to establish who the main players are to set up what happens next. 2. I have never studied US history. If my accent didn't give it away, I'm a Brit, born and raised. I didn't even do GCSE history. Up the geography, way! Oh my gosh, apologies for that. So my knowledge is purely based on the information I've retained from this musical. Thank you, Lynn, for being my US history teacher. And consequently, 3, if I get anything wrong, oopsie, this is all for giggles. It's not actually that deep. With all that aside, let's go, girls. Dun, dun, dun. The big political thing happening in Act 1 that you can't really ignore is the American Revolutionary War. Main thing is, the US wants independence from Britain. 2 key players here are the Georges, Washington and the third, King George III, the third George who was the King of Britain. George Washington is Commander-in-Chief of the Continental Army, i.e. he's in charge of all things American military here. By the end of the act, he's been made the first President of the United States. King George III is the King of Britain from 1760 to 1820, and so is the ruler of the British Empire while the events of Hamilton and the American Revolutionary War are happening. Now for our titular character, Alexander Hamilton. During the war, he serves as Washington's aide-de-camp, and I hope I'm saying that right, which essentially means that he's a high-ranking officer that works as Washington's secretary or PA. In the song Non-Stop, he's appointed the role of Secretary of the Treasury by Washington.
Sir, do you want me to run the Treasury or State Department? Treasury. Let's go.
I also have a photo of Aaron Burr here, who has a pretty influential political and law career post-war when he's back in New York, so this is also end of Act 1, Non-Stop. He isn't super politically influential throughout Act 1, but he's really important for Act 2, so I've brought him up here. Others who are mentioned in Act 1 and are later important are Thomas Jefferson and James Madison. I'm oversimplifying and skipping bits because they're old and politics is weird, but at the time the events of Act 1 take place, Thomas Jefferson is a delegate to the Second Continental Congress. He gets mentioned by Angelica in the Schuyler Sisters.
We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, and when I meet Thomas Jefferson, I'ma compel him to include women in the sequel. Work!
She quotes the Declaration of Independence, which Jefferson wrote. Now, Madison is a delegate to the Congress of the Confederation and is mentioned in Non-Stop for having co-written the Federalist Papers with John Jay and Alexander Hamilton.
Alexander joins forces with James Madison and John Jay to write a series of essays defending the new United States Constitution entitled the Federalist Papers. John Jay got sick after writing 5. James Madison wrote 29. Hamilton wrote the other 51.
America wins the war and therefore their independence, as signalled in the show with the dramatisation of the pivotal Battle of Yorktown, and this sets the stage, no pun intended, for the events of Act 2. Jefferson, as the US ambassador to France, has been in France understandably so, for the last 5-ish years. Also, I find it really funny that he becomes friends with Marquis de Lafayette, like in this window sort of, and they're never seen on stage together. Isn't that strange, considering Lafayette's in Act 1 and Jefferson's in Act 2, so they're characters the audience would know, but we don't see their friendship. How strange. He comes back to the US and has been appointed Secretary of State in Washington's cabinet. So at this point, Hamilton, Secretary of the Treasury, Jefferson, Secretary of State. Hamilton and Jefferson, and kind of Madison too, debate at a cabinet meeting. Hamilton has financial proposals that Jefferson very much does not agree with, but Washington supports his son figure. He supports Hamilton and tells him to find a way to get his plan through Congress. The girls are still fighting. Jefferson, Madison, and Hamilton have a little dinner party to resolve the conflict, and by the end of it, Jefferson and Madison have conceded to Hamilton's financial system proposal in exchange for them having the US Capitol where they want it, which ends up being on the Potomac River. The whole song is Burr speculating about how things went down because he's an outsider, but he's also jelly about Hamilton's political sway. Burr replaces Philip Schuyler as the Senate's New York representative, and he switches political parties to do so. Hamilton is decidedly not happy about that. Jefferson and Hamilton are yet again on opposing sides. Jefferson thinks that the US should aid the French in their conflict with Britain, but Hamilton disagrees. Ultimately, Washington sides with Hamilton yet again, and so the decision on what the US is going to do is made. Jefferson, Madison, and Burr all complain about Washington supporting and agreeing with Hamilton in essentially everything. Jefferson realizes that, as part of Washington's cabinet, he's complicit.
I'm in the cabinet, I am complicit in watching him grabbing and power and kissing. If Washington isn't gonna listen to disciplined dissidents, this is the difference, this kid is out!
He resigns from his position to run in the upcoming presidential election, and this is really the start of Jefferson, Madison, and Burr planning to take Hamilton down. So I like to think of it as, imagine Jefferson, Madison, and Burr are Janice, Damien, and Katie, and then Hamilton is Regina George. And this is like, if you know the musical, this is like the revenge party bit of the show. You know what I mean? Washington tells Hamilton about Jefferson's resignation and then hits him with a surprise, I'm resigning too, woohoo! He steps down as president, and I love that part of Washington's actual farewell address is included in the song, and Chris Jackson makes me cry every time I hear him sing it. King George III hears that Washington stepped down and is confused because A, he's a monarch, so stepping down isn't really a thing to him, like it's not a thing that his people do. And B, Washington is the only logical option as a leader.
There's nobody else in their country who looms quite as large.
He's then informed and therefore tells the audience that John Adams will be the next president. This is the introduction of John Adams's presidency. Jefferson, as the runner-up in the presidential race, is the new vice president. Adams fires Hamilton as Secretary of State, so Hamilton, in typical Hamilton fashion, publishes a response that, safe to say, does not do wonders for his political career. Madison is about ready to celebrate.
This is great. He's out of power, he holds no office, and he just destroyed President John Adams, the only other significant member of his party.
But Jefferson isn't satisfied, and alongside Madison and Burr, he prepares to destroy Hamilton's career. Janice, Damien, and Katie pull up to Hamilton's office with receipts, literally. They say, the jig is up, we know you've been embezzling government money to pay this guy James Reynolds, there's no getting out of this one. But then Hamilton says, joke's on you guys, I'm not embezzling government funds, I was just cheating on my wife, but don't tell anyone, okay? And he says it almost like it's like a gotcha moment, and I'm like, who really has the upper hand here? The three amigos are like, okay, TMI, thanks, bye. Hamilton decides he'd rather expose himself than be exposed and writes a pamphlet revealing the affair. And honestly, pamphlet is an understatement. It is a novella at best. There are far too many pages in this thing for it to be considered your average pamphlet. After this, his reputation is essentially left in tatters. He's never gonna be president now, never gonna be president now. The final big political moment of Hamilton is the election of 1800. Hamilton and Adams, both members of the Federalist Party, are no longer really viable options, so it boils down to Jefferson and Burr as the frontrunners for the position of president. Because the two primary candidates are both Democratic Republicans, the members of the Federalist Party want guidance on who they should vote for and look to Hamilton for advice. He endorses Jefferson.
Jefferson has my vote. I had never agreed with Jefferson once. We have fought on like 75 different fronts. But when all is said and all is done, Jefferson has beliefs. Burr has none.
As runner-up, Burr is VP but crashes out over Hamilton sidelining him again. Blah blah blah, they duel, blah blah blah, Hamilton dies. And that's basically it. I've probably missed a lot or explained things poorly, but I tried. If you want any more Hamilton breakdowns, whether they concern narrative or music, let me know, because I am always happy to yap about musicals.